Okay, let's give this a try. We'll loosely use the term grips just to start out for the description. And you're going to hear me refer to these as stocks or panels. The reason is generally when we're talking about grips, we're talking about something that's wraparound, inset, or old school. Basically, this is going to be a flat panel. So the older terminology for this was stocks. Again, panels. This is a still in the rough and just starting to finish piece, but it's a panel. There's no insets, there's no indentions, no wraparounds. Again, I got the sniffle, so I'll try not to be too awful disgusting on y'all, and still keep up and going. And again, pardon my coffee pauses. But this was originally intended for a one-off on the woodworking things, because again, this isn't the terms that we're not allowed to use. So if you hear me refer to, that unmentionable word thingy, okay, but it's not just mentioned or for the unmentionable word thingies. This is you want to put a set on your favorite potato peeler, anything else. This is just a general stock panel woodworking introduction. Originally, this was going to be, and this is what we're actually going to be doing through the rest of the series here, is it originally started out as what's called Bookmatched. And we were going to do Bookmatched panels. This, again, just a introduction, let y'all know what's coming. And when we get into actually doing through the series, the actual cutting out, the shaping, the forming, and all that, the set we're going to do is going to be a Bookmatched set. Have to open the window. Okay, so again, I don't have editing, and apologize for the crappy camera, but y'all that follow me and y'all that pay attention to my stuff, you know that this isn't one of those, Hollywood media spectaculars with good camera angles and all that. I'm not here to put out quality video. This is strictly a one-to-one information generation. So you get the full video from start to finish. No editing, no cuts, no muss, no fuss. Okay, so just to start on this, and hopefully we don't run too awful long. When we're talking about Bookmatched, which again was what the original was, but this works for anything. The term Bookmatched is, we'll use these two panels for example. Now this is a set that I made. Yes, I did a, hopefully we can say half-assed on YouTube, but I did a half-assed job. This is the set that I made for the Ruger, the Old Army, which has the same frame size as a standard Blackhawk. But this is rosewood. And like I said, I really didn't do a bang-up job on these. Real quick shout out to Dan, who sent me the medallions from Ruger, who is no longer with Ruger. But Dan sent me the medallions, And just want to say, miss you, brother. Appreciate it. So these were actually sent from Ruger, and he just happened to find some old stock because my old Army is a 1984, and he was able to find some old stock original medallions that I inset into these. So anyway, like I said, just a really bad job. And as you can see in the light, these do have a lot of wear and tear. So this isn't just for me doing a half-assed job. This is lots of wear and tear, carrying. Really need to wax them, I guess. Again, the lighting's not great and this camera's not the best, so that kind of looks like a rough waxed floor or something. But I like the wood, I like the color, and it matched the polished stainless, so this is what I went with. But what I had was a 1/2 inch thick piece of rosewood, and these are rosewoods. And again, in a minute, we'll get into the difference in colors, our different woods and all that. But this is actual rosewood. So what I had was a 1/2 inch piece that I was able to, in this configuration, and you can see when I put them like this, I had a little scrap over here and a little scrap, around the edges, but I was able to cut 2 panels out of the 1/2 inch piece and then finish them down. Well, by doing that, since we cut them out of 2 sections of wood, I have a part of my tripod here. I'm trying to reach around and not knock the camera off, so I'm trying to get my hands in here. But you can see the grain patterns. They're not the same. They were out of the same piece of wood, and out of the same piece of wood that was like this big, but even though they came out of the same piece of wood, the grain patterns are different. Now, when you hear of a matched set, basically what a matched set is your stock maker, grip maker, woodworker. They will actually sit and go through many, many pieces of wood and try to match the grains of what they're going to use for each stock piece and get as close as they can by matching many different pieces of wood. So now when we get into what's called a book matched set, is you have one piece of wood. This is a rough piece that I had taken out of a tree years ago in the storm damage, and I had basically split this out of some scrap, what they were going to use for firewood. This is Schultz's piece, and on that note, just so everybody knows, I will not use anybody's name publicly, unless I get strict permission first. So on the draws and everything we do for our weekly drawing winners and all that, I don't publish the names, don't publish the people, anything like that. But certain individuals, Schultz, for example, aka for you Twitter folks, this is Survivor Kitty. So Survivor Kitty, yeah, throw it out there. I'm like, okay. Anyhow, this is Survivor Kitty's piece that I'm working on a set for her. Again, it's just rough cut. But when we talk about book matched, basically, again, I have sticky out parts here, so I have hard, but it's like opening up a book. If you take this piece, for example, which is roughly 1 inch thick, the grain on this side, as you can see the grain lines, we flip it over. Well, even though this is the same piece and it's not that thick of a piece, just from this side to this side, the grain lines are going to be different. So when we say a book match piece, what we're actually going to do is we're going to split this down the center, and we're going to open it up just like a book. What happens on that is your inside face becomes your outside face. So when we split this piece, this will not be the inside of the frame, and it's the outside, or this portion. Maybe I can illustrate it with these. You will actually, when you make the split, you will open these up. That way these two are the same face. Then the inside becomes the outsides, and the outsides become the inside. What that does is when you look at these pieces, when you take this panel and you take the other panel, when you turn it around, each side is going to be a mirror image. That's what's considered a book matched piece. Something you rarely find in any kind of production scales. A lot of your production scales, your high-end scales, they're going to be close and similar, but they're not going to be exact. This is basically just making an exact mirror copy. And again, we're also doing this series, and this isn't production stuff. This is for y'all that want to do basic stuff with basic tools. Everything we're going to run here is going to be straight hand tools. Again, I'm having to break this up in several different videos because of time allowances. But this is going to be a start to finish on a set with $10 worth of tools. Again, this isn't, and back to a couple of people that have asked me on this about, well, I like to make several sets, then start casting them out, this, that, and the other. This isn't for somebody trying to get into, hey, let me start a business on this, and I just want to make production. You can do this on production, but this is actually where we're getting into really high-end type stuff. What the average owner is not going to be able to afford, because, for example, I'll just use this for an example again. A basic scale set. This is going to be, again, just illustration purposes, basic scale set for a basic SAA. These themselves in the factory produced or retail markets, believe it or not, this is about a $90 set of panels. Again, a lot of it has your what would you use, your sourced availability, but a general set of close matched, $90 is not an exaggeration on the cost of these to buy them. When you start getting into book matched on the same set, let me check here. Do I have? Nope, I don't have a set of books. But a book matched set on a basic scale, again, this is for the newbies and the novelty folks. Those that aren't familiar with the market and everything, a straight book match set of scales, depending on the wood, $120. Now you start getting into exotics, your high-end rosewoods, certain cherries, stuff like that. I've seen book match sets go for $180 and $200 on just plain scales. We're not talking about actual full grips, two-side grip panels. We're talking about just scales. Again, use the term scale. Now, this is a scale. This is a panel. For this unmentionable word I'm not allowed to say on certain platforms, for one of these unmentionables, this model, if you did a book match set in, say, the rosewood here, pretty simple. And I'll also give that misnomer here. It is simple. It's really not technically difficult, but it's also the, well, don't let it be too easy that you get the misnomer that, well, it's a really simple thing. A lot of times, really simple things can end up being really difficult. But it's simple and can get hard at the same times. But point being is, this is a simple design, a pretty much simple woodworking cut, and something this simple, you're looking at $200 once this is finished out and fit. Most of y'all aren't going to pay $200 for something like this. A lot of you will, but again, this is just for those of y'all that want to get into this. It's a stepping stone into the more difficult, which we will get through in the rest of the entire series. Okay, so I'm stuffy. You've got a cold. No, I don't have COVID. It's basically just allergies, and got into a bunch of black mold the other day. So sick and congested, but not contagious, so don't worry about that. Okay, so this is probably going to be another one of those, since I don't do editing type things, I'll probably end up redoing after I've got a little bit better head on my shoulders. But reasons to make your own stocks. When we get into the later stuff, that's going to be custom fit to your hand, that kind of stuff. That's starting to get into the advanced techniques. Again, you have to crawl before you walk, walk before you run. This is solely for beginners and starting out with basic tools. So again, reasons to make your own. And again, these holsters are not my carry holsters. This is basically my storage sock. A lot of y'all like to buy the sock to put these in. Just stick these in these. But a certain name that we won't mention has really dropped the ball on their production stuff. And again, sorry, I'm waiting for camera to catch up here. you see these square portions here. Now, technically, that should be rounded over. What that does is it gives, right here on this part of the knuckle, when you grip it, there's a square portion here. What I've done with these, when I cut them, we still have a square portion here. But if you notice here, it's more rounded over. So this was just a basic, comfortable thing that I wanted a set to fit better. That wasn't just production quality, slap it on there, be done with it thing. Also, on this same one, again, I don't have lighting in here. Let me remember which side it. Yeah, here she is. Okay. I don't know if I can get this in the camera, but there's a crack. There we go. Okay, you can see a crack that has started to propagate. Now this crack is going to follow the grain. This crack is going to eventually run up and go all the way through till this whole corner breaks off. And since I have a screwdriver, let me just go ahead and if you haven't noticed, I'm in the process of moving into the camper, so I don't have my actual good lights out here yet. And again, these tend to stick. Again, for you people that are wanting to try, you see how these are just hard to get off. You don't want to pry them. But it's also wet. Humidified day. And they've swelled a little bit. But, okay, now, again, these are the factory originals that came on her. And I will be using these again in a minute, for example, on different woods, different colors, different grains. But just trying to show the propagated crack. And don't think I can see too much on this camera, especially because it's in a dark portion of the grain itself. So this dark portion of grain is actually where this crack is actually following. So what's going to happen if I keep using these, this is going to eventually split off. So that's another reason for making a replacement set. If you want to stick original to your piece, instead of buying a set, make your own custom set. Now, when we start looking at colors and types of wood, this is not a walnut grip. Most people look at the color and say, okay, that's walnut. This is the factory originals, and this is rosewood. This is rosewood. Now you can see a difference in the color. These are both rosewoods. And again, back to Dan. Miss you, Ruger brother, but you know, matching medallions. Let's see. This has a little more swoop grain. So it's a little closer as far as grain pattern. But even though we have kind of a likeness in the grain pattern, these are different colors. But these are both rosewood. To show the difference, well, let me go back to 1911s. This is rosewood. Here we have two different pieces of wood. These are both walnut. These are both black walnut. Same type of wood, two completely different looks. One thing you will get into on different types of wood, same woods, you have heartwood, you have sapwood, then some you have a mixture of heartwood and sapwood. That's where the heartwood being the center of the tree and the sapwood on the outside, you will get some cuts between the sapwood and the heartwood. Again, let me flip these over. Different woods, even from the same tree, will come out looking different. Now, if I kind of stack these, maybe you can see where I'm talking about difference in what would be considered a sapwood and a heartwood. But one tree can produce several different colors of wood. Differences in where it's cut, as we can see here. Try to keep my hand out of the lighting so maybe it'll show up different. But you can see there's lighter and darker sections of the same piece of wood. And that goes back to where we talk about book matching. Book matching, we're going to split this, fold it open, and so the outside of this will be on the left, the outside of this will be on the right, and it will be a perfect mirror image. So, try not to draw this out too long. And we'll get into basic, what you need to actually start a slab or panel. Basic tools. These are cheap. For those of you that don't know, this is a coping saw. The coping saw is before the advent of jigsaws. Thin blade, easy to make turns. What this does is when you take your stock panel, you can really get in there and do fine detail cuts out. So to start a general set, this is pretty much all you need. You can buy those Walmart, Hobby Lobby, your basic craft shops. About $10 for a, I'll say inexpensive, not cheap, a inexpensive coping saw, which is going to do the majority of what you're going to need to do. Generally, when I split my stock out, I run a handsaw. I'll use a handsaw to split this into